If you're searching for answers to the deepest mysteries of existence, then you're in the right place. This is knowledge that could totally change everything you know about life and death. Ever felt like there was a missing piece in what you were taught about life, death, and who you really are? Edgar Cayce called that feeling soul memory, a trace of something forgotten even before your first cry. 12 centuries ago, a manuscript precisely described the steps consciousness takes before putting on flesh, and then it vanished from official shelves. It wasn't an accident, it was sabotage so you wouldn't discover the power hidden in your chest. Today, the scroll is back. Stick around until the end. In the final moments, we'll sum up lessons that can flip your inner compass, tuning what Cayce called the voice of the divine self. Imagine a book so feared it traveled disguised inside the cover of a common psalm, copied by a scribe who risked his life to record 7 cosmic rooms. Each room holds a sound, a color, and an emotion your heart would recognize instantly, if routine hadn't buried the memory. Inventories along the Upper Tigris say the volume was locked in a safe, recovered during the Fourth Crusade and sold by a merchant who smelled myrrh with every page. Why? Because, Cayce said, those who understand the soul's path stop being easy pawns in the world's crises. You might wonder what this has to do with when rent's due in 5 days. Everything. That emptiness on the bus, even with your playlist and feed updated, is the echo of forgetting the primordial breath, a state of unity Cayce described as consciousness one with the source. When incarnating, the soul forgets this rest and confuses urgency with importance. The scroll offers simple exercises to tear the veil. 1 fits into a coffee break, 5 slow breaths, feel the weight of your body, and ask, what am I really missing? It's similar to the self-listening technique Cayce suggested to align mind, body, and spirit. Next comes the longing, the second stage. The drop imagines itself an independent pond and craves boundaries. That's where anxiety comes from, pushing you to change everything hoping to feel whole. When deep desire goes untranslated, it turns into inner pressure. The text prescribes an antidote. Question every impulse purchase. What experience does your soul want to taste? Cayce advised the same. Look for the spiritual purpose behind every material choice. If that made sense, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next pieces of this puzzle. How did the scroll survive fires and censorship? During the Black Plague, a copy traveled in a medicine chest. Later, it was buried under the Lisbon earthquake. Ordinary people, sailors, nuns, smugglers, risked everything to preserve a truth that, according to Cayce, frees the soul from the fear of loss. Honoring that legacy means recognizing others' bravery and valuing your own curiosity. Distant traditions speak of the same journey with different symbols: Atman, Ba, spark. The manuscript goes beyond metaphors. It describes the sound of a crystal flute in turquoise blue fields, the exact scenes reported in near-death experiences, a topic Cayce also explored, saying the soul remembers colors and tones impossible in matter. When you close your eyes in traffic and see oil blue flashes, you might be catching memories of the Blue Veil crossing. The third phase will break down soon. Before that, the scroll lists tiny signs that break the everyday bubble: the right song playing at just the right moment, the phrase you needed showing up in an ad. Cayce called these messages postcards from eternity. Write them down, no matter how trivial they seem. When reviewing them, patterns solve decades-old riddles. Sharing in the comments helps build a living database where each light brightens the next, and feeds the algorithm with more than just silly cat videos. 6,000 characters fly by when the chat is forbidden, but it's enough to make a pact. From now on, every baseless anxiety, déjà vu, and late-night call can become doors instead of ghosts. In the next part, we'll tear open the Blue Veil crossing and see, step by step, how essence wears memory before diving into the womb. Until then, keep an eye out for signs blinking at the edge of your vision. They might be the manuscript knocking on your dream's door tonight, ready to return the page they tore from your soul's book. When the scroll describes the Blue Veil crossing, it doesn't talk about an ethereal hallway full of angels singing in cinematic chorus. Instead, it mentions a dense, almost liquid silence where consciousness turns into a will-o'-the-wisp about the size of a spark. In this place, color and sound blend, the blue pulses like a drumbeat and vibrates high notes that sound like wet crystal chimes. If you've ever woken from a dream where everything looked painted in intense cobalt, you might have glimpsed this prematter moment. Those who've been there say they wake with the feeling of having "don't forget" etched in their skin. Watch if, in the coming weeks, that color starts to hover around your daily scenes: a street sign, the sky's reflection in a car, a candy wrapper falling from your pocket. These quiet signals are invites. Accept them, note them, and if it feels right, share what you found in the comments. Each story lights up another crack in this blue hallway. On the other side of the veil, Essence finds an infinite hall sprinkled with translucent mirrors, the mirror of 1,000 voices. There are no walls, just reflections floating in space. Each reflection projects a possible life script, from medieval peasant to satellite programmer, and consciousness wanders among them like a kid in a toy store. Nothing is forced. Selection happens by resonance. The reflection that makes your heart beat strongest sticks to the flame, marking temperament, talents, even tendencies to stumble over the same mistakes. When you instantly connect with a stranger, you've probably both chosen chapters that rhyme. An instant dislike could signal a prearranged lesson to sharpen patience. Knowing this changes how fights feel, from duels to joint rehearsals. If you notice this shift in your next work argument, give yourself a little smile and a quick like down below to celebrate recovered memory. Script selection ends in a subtle pact, the heart pact. There, the flames that recognize each other seal collaboration agreements. Some promise to be guides, others opponents who spark flashes powerful enough to create light. Think of that teacher who kept pushing where you were too lazy to learn. Maybe they were part of the crew in this pact. The manuscript warns, breaking agreements doesn't bring external punishment but a frustration that echoes in your chest. It's that annoying throb that pops up when you step away from something you knew was yours, a career path dropped halfway, a relationship held together by fear of diving deep. The antidote? A brief silence before big decisions to feel if the choice expands or contracts your chest. If expansion wins, go ahead. If contraction wins, rethink. This gut compass costs nothing and seems to beat lots of expensive gurus. After the group pact, it's time for individual retreat, the chamber of silence. Imagine a circular library with shelves so tall they fade into shadows. Each blue-gray book holds the full biography of a different universe, and the flame opens the exact volume where the timeline you just chose lives. The reading doesn't cause euphoria, but calm understanding, pain and pleasure rolled into the same thread. When finishing the last page, the flame closes the book and stores the whole memory in tiny strips of light, later scattered at key points in earthly life: déjà vus, intuitions, persistent coincidences. That's why some places feel familiar on first visit. Maybe they're footnotes from your own story whispering "remember me?" from the corner of the scene. The transition to the physical world begins at the Rupert Bridge, but before crossing it, it's important to talk about the value of experience, because everything decided in the previous rooms makes sense right here. The scroll says the universe doesn't understand adjectives, only experiences. Learning patience isn't about memorizing the word, but about waiting for a medical exam without biting your nails. Pain isn't punishment, it's a sign of an underdeveloped area. Joy, on the other hand, shows that the emotional muscle has been well exercised. When your tire blows out in the rain, remember, your consciousness wrote that chapter knowing the chill down your spine would awaken a dormant cleverness. Seeing problems as quiet teachers doesn't solve everything instantly but stops anger from messing up the lesson. If this perspective makes your next surprise a little lighter, share it in the comments afterward. Your story might be a mirror for someone still stumbling in the dark. Bringing this view into daily life just takes small habits, no complicated rituals. First, jot down your dreams as soon as you wake up, before the alarm turns those symbols into a grocery line. Second, walk for 10 minutes without headphones. Listening to the street sounds like a movie soundtrack trying to send a secret message. Third, mentally thank something small, the smell of coffee, a cat stretching on the windowsill, and notice how your chest expands like a sail catching wind. These little acts tune your inner antenna to catch reminders from the original pact. It's not blind mysticism. Neuroscientists already show that gratitude and mindfulness reshape decision-making circuits. In other words, well-applied spirituality can even improve your budget spreadsheet. Maybe you're wondering, what about when nothing works, when sadness feels like fresh cement stuck to your shoes? The manuscript suggests an ancient trick: call on the memory of the primordial breath. Close your eyes, feel air entering your nose, and pretend, just for 10 seconds, that every oxygen particle is part of the endless sea. When you exhale, imagine giving a little bit of yourself back to that ocean. Do this slowly, until your chest finds a comfortable wave. It won't fix the situation immediately, but it eases the weight so the next practical step comes without panic. If you try it and notice a difference, come back and share. Stories like that encourage those who still doubt. Now we're at the eve of the Rubra Bridge, the gateway that pushes consciousness toward the mother's womb. In the next segment, we'll see how sounds, tastes, and fears tattoo the soul minutes before birth, and why each person's first fingerprint hides traces of universes we will never walk. Meanwhile, pay attention during the day to how many times your chest expands or tightens in front of simple choices: coffee or tea, elevator or stairs. This visceral radar is the living echo of the heart pact, sending Morse code to signal if you're still on the agreed path or if you've wandered off script. Adjust if you need to, and remember, every intentional detour becomes a new chapter in the circular library. No story gets lost, some just wait to be rewritten. If that's not enough reason to look at Monday differently, maybe just remember that every step taken in full awareness strengthens the bridge connecting you, here, now, to the flame floating beyond the clouds of time. Crossing the Rubra Bridge is like diving into a river of red pulses beating in rhythm with the mother's heartbeat. The flame, now thick like embers, slides through this vibrant current while flashes of golden light engrave the soundtrack of new life onto the threads of consciousness: the gurgle of blood, the muffled whisper of voices outside, the steady rhythm of a breath not yet your own. At that moment, any doubt fades away because the choice is already sealed. The crossing doesn't allow a return. Every beat pushes your essence closer to flesh until a sudden pressure reminds you of a seed bursting from its shell. The cry that echoes in the delivery room isn't just a physiological scare, it's a sound seal ensuring memories from the 7 rooms are stored in invisible vaults. They don't disappear, they just hide in the repertoire of intuitions, hunches, and unexplainable passions that will surface over the decades to come. In the first weeks outside the womb, the newborn keeps vivid traces of the journey. The way they fix their gaze on an empty corner or the smile that seems to come from an intimate memory reveals sparks still alive from the original will-o'-the-wisp fire. Many ancient cultures knew this and rocked babies with monotonous songs so the hypnotic swing would keep that bond as long as possible. Over time, though, the flood of stimuli erases the footprints of the Rubra Bridge, and everyday life takes the wheel. Still, clues remain. The unique fingerprint on each finger holds the geometry of the mirrored world scene, while a favorite childhood color often echoes the blue of the crossing. No one can explain why some kids cry when hearing a violin and others burst out laughing, but the manuscript suggests these impulses are key notes that fit into crucial chapters in adult life. A few years on, the first big test arrives: the inevitable frustration of knowing the world doesn't spin on your wishes. From there, everything planned in the upper rooms starts to get tested in small choices. The manuscript teaches that pain only turns into suffering when consciousness stubbornly forgets the original contract. When a professional dream fails, for example, instead of seeing it as punishment, you can suspect the compass pointed to a better route. People who rediscover this view say their days gain wider contours, problems keep their weight, but stop drowning them. It's worth trying. Next time you face disappointment, ask yourself, what skill does this setback want to reveal? The answer doesn't come in neon lights but usually whispers softly late afternoon, when the day's noise sleeps. To keep the memory alive, the scroll recommends simple practices for a modern schedule. First, triangular breathing. Inhale counting to 4, hold for the same count, exhale for the same count. Repeat 3 rounds, imagining the air as a red line linking your chest and the top of your head, like the Rubra Bridge. Second, 10 minutes of free writing first thing in the morning, no filters, no editing. This flow reveals associations that escape rational radar and often delivers symbols from the chamber of silence. Third, one anonymous act of service per week, paying for the coffee of the person behind you in line or picking up trash that's not yours. Witness-free gestures feed the collective pact made in the mirror hall and strengthen the feeling that no one walks alone. Then comes the phase when the soul, now adult, senses the approach of bigger cycles. Goodbyes, moving cities, or even unexpected illness act like bells reminding you the script moves on. At times like these, the rooms creak within. It's common to get unexplained chills and dream of blue corridors or endless libraries. Far from bad omens, this is a system update. If fear shows up, breathe. If curiosity is louder, dive in. Consciousness holds strong technology to decode these signals, it only needs enough silence to listen. Those who manage say impossible coincidences happen, calling a friend just when they need it, finding a book on the sidewalk that answers an old question, or feeling the urge to change course and dodging an accident that'd make the news. Coincidence? Maybe. But when coincidences align like beads on a necklace, even skeptics start to wonder if the manuscript tells an uncomfortable truth. Chance is less random than we want to believe. And now, as promised, a quick summary of lessons that can become your inner compass. First, remember existential emptiness isn't a flaw but the echo of the primordial breath, signaling that rushing doesn't fill the longing for the formless ocean. Second, notice that anxiety disguises the desire chosen before birth and can be a gift wrapped up, you just have to unwrap it with brave questions. Third, recognize in petrol blue dreams memories of the veil crossing, secret passages for when you need courage or direction. Fourth, treat intense encounters, good or bad, as reflections of the mirror of 1,000 voices embodied in flesh, reminding you each relationship mirrors a task agreed upon. Fifth, listen to the throb in your chest whenever tough decisions arise because it translates the heart pact without words. Sixth, cultivate brief daily silences to review chapters inside your inner library, avoiding piling up unread pages in life. Seventh, honor the Rubra Bridge by living each experience fully present, because that's exactly what you promised before crossing the portal. If something in this story sparked you, don't let the ember turn to ash. Share in the comments which sign talks to your story the most. This exchange turns scattered testimonies into a mosaic that enriches everyone. And if you want a constant companion on this journey, just click the subscribe button. That way, the next video will knock on your door whenever new pieces of the manuscript resurface. Between notifications, remember, every breath repeats the eternal cycle of expansion and contraction of consciousness. Inhale, feel life flood your cells. Exhale, give it back to the cosmos. In this silent back and forth lies proof that the journey never ends, it just changes scenery. Maybe, one future early morning, that whisper that woke you up years ago will say your name again. If it does, instead of fear, let yourself smile. Recognizing the voice means the 7 rooms are no longer a secret. You'll carry the whole book in the spaces between your glances, and everyone you meet will see the reflection of that bright blue fire shining behind the color of your eyes.